I started listening to Latin music because my mother got sick and tired of listening to rock in the house all the time.
When Take That emerged onto the scene in the early 90s, they took the pop world by storm with their all-singing and all-dancing act, making boy band a household term throughout Britain. They were closely followed by the all-female group the Spice Girls, plus a horde of numerous wannabes since then. So if the 90s were the decade of boy and girl bands, the all-singing and all-dancing Ricky Martin looks set to change the course of musical history in this country by adding a touch of Latin spice at the end of the millennium. Not since Gloria Estefan and Los Lobos has there been such a furore about Latin music. Ricky didn't so much as come onto the scene, as explode into the Western music world with a blast of hip-swaying and sexy salsa sounds. Ricky already had hits in Latin American countries and Asia, but it was only during early 1999 that he really began to get recognition for his music in America and then England. Shakespeare said, "If music be the food of love, play on." He could have been talking about Ricky Martin, as he blends conga beats and salsa rhythms to form a perfect combo of Latin music that could raise anyone's temperature. Ricky Martin was born Enrique Martin Morales on December 24, 1971, just outside of San Juan in Puerto Rico. It's no wonder then, having been born into the Puerto Rican culture, that he's grown up loving music. In fact, as Ricky himself has remarked, there are over 100 radio stations in Puerto Rico, all of them playing different sorts of music all day, every day. The mid-70s were also the period of disco, which used energetic dance beats mixed with Latin rhythms. So from early on, Ricky could hear and see the effect of mixing different types of music together. However, Ricky cites his early influence not as Latin or disco music, but rock. Bands like Boston, Journey, Cheap Trick and David Bowie were prominent in his youth. That was the era of Bowie's Young Americans and Ziggy Stardust and the Spiders from Mars, both classic albums and highly influential to people all over the world. David Bowie certainly had stage presence and was an entertainer to the audience, and this is something that Ricky seems to have carried with him, as the fantastic performances at the Grammy Awards in America and Party in the Park in England have shown. His parents' marriage breakup when Ricky was 2 years old fortunately didn't affect him too badly. His mother, Nereida Morales, an accountant, and his father, Enrique Morales, a psychologist, continued to live in San Juan, as do his 5 stepbrothers and sisters. Ricky is very protective of his family, and they have always played an important role in his life. It was his mother who first got him interested in Latin music. Ricky says that she got fed up listening to rock music all the time, so took him and his brothers to a Celia Cruz concert. Celia Cruz has been called the Queen of Salsa and must be the greatest female singer to emerge from Cuba. She is the epitome of this sensual and compelling music, and her stage dancing uses steps from the mambo combined with the traditional rumba. She isn't just a singer, but a performer too. Ricky says this concert changed his whole perspective on Latin music. He began taking various singing and dancing lessons which would stand him in good stead for his future career. He seemed destined for stardom at an early age, and at the tender age of 7, he was appearing in TV commercials with his parents' support. He says that he loves Latin music because of the fusion of music and culture. Puerto Ricans are in fact descendants of black African slaves and Spanish rulers. Spanish and African influences began to blend in Puerto Rico and Cuba, which made the resulting music an eclectic mix of the two cultures and a strong base for Ricky to draw on. From early on in his life, Ricky was exposed to the colourful influence of Puerto Rican culture, and great artists like David Bowie and Celia Cruz also shaped his dream of stardom. Then Ricky discovered a young Latino band called Menudo, which he decided to join as his first major step towards becoming a professional singer. This began a new chapter in his life and was the beginning of a career that would see him perform on stages of many different kinds.
Menudo is, it's a concept. They're already there. They're doing music. They're respected. It was the best way to polish your artistic technique.
Ricky Martin first heard about Menudo when he was 10 years old, but it wasn't until his third attempt in 1984 that he finally joined the boy band after being previously told that he was too young. He was 12 years old when he began his 5-year period with Menudo. It's hard to imagine those early years when most boys of Ricky's age would have been playing football or hanging out with friends. This indicates how driven Ricky was towards Latin music, that he would give up his childhood years for a hectic touring and recording schedule that left him with little time to spend with his family. Menudo formed in 1977 with Nefti Salabri, Carlos Melendez, Fernando Salabri, Oscar Melendez and Ricky Melendez. They were the Latin equivalent of Take That, and the first boy band to really take Latin music to the rest of the world. Over the years, Menudo has had many members, as when a boy gets too old he's replaced by someone younger, thus ensuring that it will always be a boy band. At the time when Ricky joined the band, he was part of the second generation of boys. Other members were Charlie Rivera, Ray Reyes, Roy Rosello and Robbie Rosa. It was during their time together in Menudo that Ricky and Robbie Rosa began an association that would last for many years as friends and a working relationship which produced many hit songs for Ricky. When he started performing with Menudo, Ricky was nicknamed Little Ricky and was a great success with fans who saw him grow from a boy into a young man. In the 5 years Ricky was with them, Menudo produced nearly a dozen albums in many languages including Spanish, English, Portuguese and Italian. There was also a very demanding touring schedule. Ricky visited places like Italy, Japan, Spain and Brazil to name but a few, as well as places in Latin America. Each country blurred into the other as Ricky was exposed to culture after culture. This highlighted to Ricky again the fusion of Latin music and how it could be appreciated by so many different people in all of the many countries he had visited. It fired his passion to leave the band, shake off the constraints and to pursue his own career in the music industry. Also during the period he was with Menudo, he had an emotional time as his father gave him an ultimatum to choose between himself and his mother. This was brought on by the lack of time the band members had to spend with their families, and Ricky was so angry that he didn't speak to his father for over a decade and only started talking to him again a few years ago. There also wasn't much security for the boys at this time, due to the constant upheaval of touring and lack of home life. There were many rumours circulating that their manager, Edgardo Diaz, neglected the boys' emotional needs, which he denied, instead blaming the boys' own families. But Diaz remembers Ricky as having a special personality, which saw him through any difficult times better than most. Robbie Rosa, currently a songwriter and producer, said at that time that he and Ricky used to discuss their future and ideas. As roommates, they would both sit and dream about leaving the band and making it big. There's no doubt that Ricky Martin, together with the band, made a huge impact in bringing Latin music to the rest of the world during the late 80s. It was in 1989 that Ricky left the limitations of Menudo to go and pursue his own dreams in Mexico. He was the last of the second generation of boys to leave, with the others all going on to pursue careers in the music industry, leaving the third generation of Menudo boys firmly in place to carry on the ethos of Latin music. Despite the hard work schedule of the band, Ricky did value his time with Menudo. His experience in the band taught him lessons about discipline and about what was important to him in life. These were to serve him well during his whole career, and the Ricky Martin we see today is a happy and secure man who has faced his challenges head-on. None was so challenging and rewarding as the next few years in Mexico.
You want to do something? Put it in your mind and let the universe take care of it.
After being on the stage for 5 years as part of the band Menudo, Ricky Martin took a brief break in New York before entering a stage of another kind when he set foot in the Mexican theatre production of Mama Ama el Rock in 1990. This was just the beginning of a series of theatre productions that Ricky performed in, and he found working in the theatre to be immensely satisfying as it stretched his abilities as an artist. Soon after taking part in Mama Ama el Rock, he joined other actors in the play Alcanzar una estrella. The fine performance that he gave led Ricky to be offered a part in the soap opera Más que alcanzar una estrella. His talents on stage and charismatic performance ensured that he won the Mexican equivalent to the Academy Awards, the Heraldo, for his acting in this production. Ricky Martin thoroughly enjoyed his time at the theatre, and it's one of his fondest memories to date in a career that has touched upon many different areas of the arts. Ricky really came to understand discipline at the theatre, as the productions were put on every day of the week and performances had to be kept fresh for a new audience each night. His experience with Menudo had educated him well for his time there. But Ricky couldn't keep away from the road for long, and with a cast of singers and actors from a previous production, formed the group Muñecos del Papel. He again spent many months touring and performing concerts around Latin America, mesmerizing audiences with the group's amazing performances. After signing with Sony Records in 1990, he finally realized his dream of a solo music career the following year, when he released his first solo album, simply called Ricky Martin. The response to this album exceeded his greatest hopes. It earned him 8 gold records in the United States and a few of the Latin American countries. Certain songs from the album brought Ricky a taste of success, as Fuego contra Fuego and Dime que me quieres contained elements of the steamy Latin rhythms that were to be heard and loved in his future music. In 1993, Ricky followed up his first album with Me Amarás, which achieved moderate success. He then left Mexico behind and moved to the glamour capital of the world, Los Angeles in California, USA, to become part of the set of beautiful people that inhabit its long golden beaches, its heady atmosphere and exotic nightlife. Plus, of course, Los Angeles has a mix of different cultures and is a hotbed for Latin music. It was the ideal springboard for a young Latin music wannabe to flout his wares. But his first break in LA didn't come through his music, but through his acting. Ricky made his American acting debut in a very short-lived soap opera called Getting By. He only made 2 guest appearances as the character Martin, but this was enough to ensure his next big break, a part in one of America's longest-running soap operas, General Hospital. Ricky played the character Miguel Moret, who was a barman. As Ricky's television character developed, Miguel began performing in a club as a singer. This led to the chance for Ricky to showcase his singing and promote his talents to a wider audience and reach out to a greater fan base. Ricky was riding high at this time, with regular work, and his profile being raised in America. But his sights were still set on a successful music career. Ricky was in General Hospital until 1996 when, much to the disappointment of his legion of fans, he left. Ricky had landed the lead role of Marius in the Broadway production of Les Miserables, and this was a step closer to a singing career for him, and also an excellent opportunity to bring together all of his skills as a singer, dancer and actor, and earn himself a good reputation as a serious performer. Ricky claims to love the fusion of Latin music. It brings together lots of elements and blends them in a colourful way. Ricky is a fusion of things himself and epitomizes the spirit of his music, which was to be shortly realized through his 3rd album. During his time at General Hospital, Ricky had been working on this album, A Medio Vivir, with Robbie Rosa. This was released just prior to his summer run in Les Miserables, and no one could have been prepared for the crazy excitement that the album caused.
I give it all with my music. I give it all when I'm on stage. When I'm working and I'm doing interviews, I'll give you everything.
A Medio Vivir, Ricky's 3rd album, finally brought the beginnings of international fame which he sought. Whatever language you speak, Ricky's music seems to cross over the barriers. The album was co-written and co-produced by his old associate from the Menudo days, Robbie Rosa, and also by Casey Porter, who has produced artists like John Bon Jovi and Richard Marx. A Medio Vivir was a huge step forward for Ricky as he was developing as a singer, moving on in his music and working with people who could help him achieve this. Robbie Rosa was surprised when Ricky first approached him about working together. Robbie's interests lie more towards rock, but their mix of music has proved to be a winning team as the rhythm and beats of salsa and the harder edge of rock combine to form a type of Latin pop which explodes out of Ricky's stage performances. No one could have foreseen the popularity of this album, and for nearly 3 years Ricky was on the road promoting it and playing numerous concerts. Songs like Volverás and Te extraño, te olvido, te amo had him at the top of the Latin charts. The album sold over 3 million copies worldwide in over 2 years. His most famous track from the album was Maria. It took the remix of the song in 1997 for him to gain a good foothold in Europe, and it also led to some appearances on English television. This single had an impact in many European countries, and according to Billboard magazine, it was the number 2 top-selling international single of 1997. Maria was the break that Ricky needed to begin to establish himself in the international community and gain the recognition that he had worked so hard to achieve. Its upbeat Latin dance tempo had people bopping in nightclubs all over Europe. Shortly after Maria was a hit, he recorded No Importa la Distancia, which was the theme music for the Spanish version of Walt Disney's popular film Hercules. Not only did Ricky record the theme song, but he also voiced over the character of Hercules himself. This was again seen by a wide audience and raised the profile of his name. Having established a foothold in Europe with his song Maria and the film Hercules, what really grabbed everyone's attention was his performance at the World Cup in France in 1998. Ricky had initially sent off a demo of La Copa de la Vida, meaning the Cup of Life, and was delighted when it was chosen to be the theme song for the World Cup. With Latin American countries playing a major role in the World Cup and the high emotion of the French victory, Ricky's subsequent performance at the closing ceremony went down a storm. Also due to the fact that Ricky's song Maria had been constantly played a year earlier in nightclubs at holiday resorts throughout Spain, his name was recognisable by the youth culture of Europe, and his singing touched the younger element of World Cup fans. The song La Copa de la Vida was taken from his 4th album Vuelve, and was written by Robbie Rosa and Desmond Child. Cuban-born Desmond Child has worked with people like John Bon Jovi, Cher and Aerosmith, and his great songwriting skills complemented the Robbie and Ricky team to produce the first of many celebrated songs. La Copa de la Vida went on to achieve number 1 in over 30 countries. Vuelve, his 4th Spanish-speaking album, was the epitome of the fusion of music that Ricky was trying to create. The album shows Ricky's love of classic rock, blended together with the passion and rhythm of Latin music. In the US, it outsold recent albums by popular artists such as Phil Collins. Tracks on Vuelve include the World Cup theme song, the rather overdone song from Hercules, a number of ballads and numerous Latin dance numbers which would go down well in any salsa or nightclub. And all of this without the aid of techno samples, which Ricky dislikes. He prefers his voice to come over as pure and undiluted by technology as possible. In essence, what you hear is what you get. His performance at the opening ceremony of the World Cup took many people's breath away, as his lifetime of performing stood him in good stead, in front of an estimated crowd of 2 billion. This was an important moment for Ricky, and it heralded his entrance into Europe. And as he performed in Spanish, English and French, he endeared himself even more to the European community. Good music is good music, whatever language it's sung in, and Ricky was finally achieving recognition as one of the top up-and-coming Latin singers.
If there's something that I'm proud of, is Latin American sounds. They can be a jewel when they're fusioned with different sounds.
The success that Ricky Martin had enjoyed so far in his career, with millions of his albums being sold worldwide, was an excellent achievement for an Hispanic artist crossing over into the international market. Previous crossover artists have included Richie Valens, of whom the film La Bamba was based on, and Los Lobos, who sang the theme tune for the film and had a hit with it in the UK charts. Before Los Lobos came Gloria Estefan and the Miami Sound Machine. Gloria and her husband Emilio Estefan were, over a decade ago, trying to introduce timbales and conga beats into their music. They were initially told by record companies to cut back on that side of their music so that people received a more diluted Latin sound. But there's no doubt that Gloria and Emilio Estefan were part of the spearhead of Latin performers who brought their music to an English-speaking audience. Emilio Estefan is still part of this movement as he produces and manages many of today's Latin artists with his own label, Crescent Moon, under Sony. Gloria and Emilio paved the way for the future of Latin music and Latin artists like Ricky Martin. Who could forget Julio Iglesias, a legend in his own time who wowed a generation of female fans with his Latin looks and silky vocals. Now his son, Enrique Iglesias, is following in his father's footsteps by entering the music business, and his first English-speaking single is featured on the soundtrack of the film Wild Wild West, which stars Will Smith and Kevin Kline. One of the more recent crossover successes was Tejano singer Selena, who only after her tragic death in 1995 began selling millions of records worldwide. Jennifer Lopez portrayed her in a film directed by Gregory Nava in 1997, and after singing on set made a demo tape of her vocals. This led Jennifer to pursue a career in singing, and she has also made an English-speaking album. Another artist in the current crop of Latin singers is Marc Anthony. Anthony and Lopez actually recorded a duet, No Me Ames, which was a hit on Spanish-language radio. Marc Anthony has worked on a role in Martin Scorsese's film Bringing Out the Dead, which stars Nicolas Cage. He is also working on an English-language album. Also, the widower of Selena, Chris Perez, will be releasing a bilingual album in the near future, further increasing the number of Latin artists currently in the market. This surge in Latin artists making English-language albums seems unprecedented, even though some of the artists have been making Latin music for years. Ricky Martin is the most recognizable mainstream figure for the Latin music market, and there will be many who will undoubtedly follow in his success. The sudden demand for Latin music might seem a bit surprising, but not so for Sony Records, who have been waiting and preparing for this for years. Sony Records have predicted this rise in popularity in Latin music for quite a while. That's why Ricky Martin was signed to Sony's Latin division at the start of his solo career. They have now been proved right. As the 90s hit song Macarena confirmed, people loved dance Latin numbers, and Macarena had people doing the same dance in nightclubs all over Europe. The gaining popularity of salsa dancing is also part of this Latin craze. More and more salsa clubs have been gaining in popularity throughout Britain in recent years, as the younger generation responds to this energetic music. This also fuels the success of Latin artists, as sales are increasing, and Ricky Martin has a large market share of those sales. Ricky very much wants Latin music to be accepted worldwide, and feels like he is an ambassador of the music and his culture. There's no doubt that Latin music is gaining in popularity, and Ricky is at the forefront of it, and serves as a good figurehead for the Latin music movement.
I have a restaurant, I opened it in December. It's called Casa Salsa. It's Puerto Rican food. If you go there, visit.
With Ricky enjoying his popularity as one of the forerunners of Latin crossover music, he seemed the ideal choice for the Pepsi Next Generation adverts, which encompass the ethos of youth and breaking down global barriers. So Ricky joined the long line of top performers like Michael Jackson and the Spice Girls in appealing for the youth of today to drink Pepsi Cola. This also served to improve his profile among the Pepsi drinkers of America. He was also asked by the Puerto Rican Tourist Board if he would make some commercials for them extolling the virtues of his home country. As Ricky is very proud of where he comes from and likes to think of himself as a global ambassador for his country, he was more than happy to oblige. He can now be seen on Puerto Rican tourist information adverts screened in America, promoting its lovely people, long beaches, mix of culture and food. Ricky managed to promote the food of Puerto Rico in his own flamboyant and charismatic style as co-owner of his own restaurant. He opened Casa Salsa in December 1998 in Ocean Drive, Miami. Because Miami is the Latin music capital of America, and Ricky also has a house there, it seemed like the ideal choice of location for his restaurant. Ricky has often commented on how much he likes Miami and enjoys walking out of the back door of his house and seeing the ocean. Ricky seems determined to bring the world some part of Puerto Rico, be it music or cookery. The menu mainly serves Puerto Rican food, but also serves other types for the less adventurous. A typical main course would be grilled tuna fillet in molasses and Don Q 151 rum sauce, or plantain breaded shrimp in garlic, parsley, recao and wine sauce, plus numerous other mouth-watering dishes. There's something for everyone at Casa Salsa, and it's just the beginning according to Ricky. In the future they're planning to give salsa lessons at the restaurant, and diners can also buy souvenirs of Ricky and other artists. Not everyone could blend together the food and music of a country so seamlessly. The restaurant was opened amid a huge party with lots of celebrity guests. Ricky aims to have a chain of Casa Salsas around America and then maybe in Europe. If he's as determined with his restaurant business as he has been with his music, then nothing short of global domination could happen. As well as being an acclaimed actor and a popular singer, Ricky also has a head for business, proving that he's not just a pretty face. It's no wonder then that he's become such a strong male icon in pop and Latin music, gaining an extraordinary number of fans from women and the gay community all over the world. His intelligence, Latin good looks and heart-stopping stage performances all combined to make Ricky Martin very hot property, and the world was about to discover what they were missing. Ricky's love of the stage meant that he couldn't keep away from it for very long, and he was about to be given the opportunity which would lead to many more live performances. It was only a few weeks after his restaurant opened that Ricky heard the news that would lead to his acclaimed Grammy performance. This was a massive chance for him, and one that he did not miss out on.
One thing that my parents taught me was to be stubborn. Stubborn without hurting others, not to be mediocre, just to fight for what you believe, not to let anyone ruin your dreams.
After wowing Europe with the World Cup theme song and America with his culinary tastes, Ricky thought he was well overdue some time out. He has had an interest in spirituality for most of his life and has studied Roman Catholicism, Scientology, Judaism, Hinduism and also Buddhism. This is why, when he found out that he had been nominated for a Grammy, he was in the Himalayas in India. He had gone there with some friends to get away from everything for a short while. When he phoned home, they told him the great news that his album Vuelve had been nominated for the Best Latin Pop Performance category. Ricky was overjoyed at this news, but was still unsure of winning, as he was up against some tough competition like José Feliciano and Juan Gabriel. Ricky almost immediately shared his good news with Emilio Estefan, who had worked with him on his 5th album. Emilio Estefan has been at the cutting edge of Latin music for many years, and Ricky welcomes his opinion and support. But better news was to follow, as Ricky's record company, Sony, pushed for him to actually perform on the Grammy Awards night. As the Grammys hadn't had an Hispanic singer on for a couple of years, they agreed to let him perform. This was a major coup for Ricky, as it led to that much talked about and publicised performance by him of La Copa de la Vida. When Ricky appeared on the Grammy stage, the previous week's rehearsals paid off. The lights went up, and an otherwise middle-of-the-road awards ceremony was transformed into a pulsating, foot-tapping experience as Ricky's spirited vocals had people literally dancing in the aisles, for which he received a standing ovation. Aerosmith and Celine Dion also performed that night, but their acts paled in comparison to Ricky's. Celine Dion was noted to be dancing a little, and Madonna was swaying to his music. Ricky was one of the first Latin performers to sing in Spanish as well as English at the awards. Gloria Estefan had done it many years previously, but was already an established international success. It is hard to imagine anyone topping that act, but Ricky again managed it by walking away with a Grammy for Best Latin Pop Performance. And no one could doubt his talents after that fantastic display, even though he said that it was difficult to sing in front of a crowd he admired so much, rather than the other way round. He later remarked that he didn't actually hear his name being read out as the winner, but looked at his manager's face and then knew it by his reaction. Ricky was very proud to have won this award for his music, as he feels very strongly about his culture and likes to promote a positive image of Puerto Rico and Latin music. The next day, everyone who had watched the Grammys wanted to know who Ricky Martin was. The timing of this could not have been more perfect to coincide with the launch of his first English-speaking album. Offers of duets flooded in, including one with Madonna, which appears on this album. Ricky's brilliant performance at the Grammys put him centre stage, and this was followed up by lots of offers from other artists. He was invited by Pavarotti to sing with him in his country, and was asked by Sting to sing at his Rainforest benefit gig in Carnegie Hall, with himself and other esteemed artists such as Elton John and Billy Joel. The theme for the concert was based on Frank Sinatra, and Ricky was looking forward to a very Broadway-esque type of performance. The ensuing media frenzy led to appearances by Ricky in many top magazines such as People, Time and Vanity Fair, and he even appeared on the cover of Rolling Stone magazine. Everybody wanted a piece of Ricky and wanted to know where he came from and how he'd got there. His apparent overnight success in America came after over a decade of hard work, but it looked like Ricky had finally achieved what he'd set out to do. Ricky was then faced with the difficult task of keeping the momentum of his success going. After working so hard to become an international success, he now had to capitalise on his Grammy triumph and all of the media interest to stay in the game, which he was able to do through the release of his first English-language album, simply titled Ricky Martin.
I enjoy dealing with people and analyzing people. I love psychology.
After the Grammy Awards, people had wanted to know who Ricky Martin was and where they could buy his records. They were not disappointed, as a couple of months after the Grammys, Ricky's first English-language album was released. The self-titled album had been 2 years in the making because Ricky wanted to get it sounding perfect. The album reached top of the charts in both England and America, proving that Ricky's sense of timing had been, in this case, nothing short of miraculous. Ricky Martin, the album, was produced by Robbie Rosa and Emilio Estefan with songwriter Desmond Child. There are a few other writers also on the album, including John Secada. As Ricky has remarked before, he leaves his songwriting to other people, who can capture what he is feeling and put it into words and music. They express the music best, and he can take it from there, though he has been known to scribble down poetry in any spare moments. After the Grammys, Madonna was very keen to do a duet with Ricky. She had first heard of him when she was filming for the movie Evita in Argentina, and they stayed in the same hotel, which was besieged by Ricky fans. The resulting song was Be Careful, Cuidado con mi corazón. Their duet was rumoured to have a slight hitch in the making. Time was running out, and Madonna allegedly didn't like the pressure being put on her to finish, and walked out. Ricky smoothed things over, and the slight hiccup was forgotten in the wake of an excellent song, which blends together the worlds of Latin and electropop almost seamlessly into an English-Spanish ballad. Ricky said that what he admired most about Madonna was her spirituality. Ricky is quite spiritual himself, and has often said that his first priority is to his soul, second only to his family. It's through his spirituality that Ricky tries to keep his feet on the ground and maintain some balance in his hectic career. Ricky relished the opportunity of working with Madonna and found it to be a very pleasant experience as they collaborated together so well. Another successful duet from the album is the song Private Emotion, in which Ricky sings with Swedish vocalist Meja. Meja had a hit in the UK a couple of years ago with the single All About the Money. Their song could be a surprise hit, with its power rock ballad sensibilities and their voices entwining together perfectly on the harmonies. The album contains ballads such as She's All I Ever Had and You Stay With Me. Ricky has just enough of a husky catch in his voice for these tracks to make his fans' hearts beat a little bit faster. There are also Latin dance numbers of a moderate tempo, like Spanish Eyes, I'm On My Way, and Shake Your Bon Bon, an up-tempo lightweight song with a heavy melody, a conga beat and a chorus that seems to stay in your head for a long time after you've listened to it. Ricky Martin's good voice, together with the energy and passion of his music, his fiery performance, backed up with his brilliant writing team, is what has gained him the admiration he enjoys today. His album Ricky Martin was the culmination of a lot of hard work and had the right mixture of Latin pop to enthuse the global market. His first single, released from this album, was Living La Vida Loca, another up-tempo, energetic song. After the energy of La Copa de la Vida, this track was just what was needed to ensure Ricky's reign as the Latin artist of the moment, and finally ensured a place for him and his music in the mainstream English-language music charts.
La Vida Loca. La Vida Loca is awesome.
With an English-speaking album released shortly after his Grammy performance, Ricky still had a little more work ahead of him before he could really claim to have achieved success in America and England. Even though he had spent over a decade working in arts and music and had sold millions of albums worldwide, it took one more song to finally secure a place for him in the hearts and charts of the UK. Living La Vida Loca was written by Ricky's dream team of Robbie Rosa and Desmond Child. After providing Ricky with the song La Copa de la Vida for the World Cup, Robbie Rosa and Desmond Child again worked their magic by supplying Ricky with a song that was a mixture of different music. In Living La Vida Loca, you can hear a bit of rock, a bit of ska, and a bit of Latin. All the qualities of fusion in music that Ricky loves. The song also has great lyrics, a strong melody, and is a festivity of life. It is an up-tempo, energetic track that became popular in nightclubs throughout Europe. This single was released in the wake of Ricky's Grammy success and highlighted the talent of both him, his team, and his new album, which got many good reviews. The video to the song also had a big impact in America. When it was first released, it was MTV's most requested video and was played several times a day. Ricky was officially hot property. The single was at number 1 in the UK for 3 weeks and led to numerous television interviews and performances. He also appeared at the Party in the Park festival in England at the end of July. Ricky claims to get as much a buzz from his live performances as do his audience, and yet again Ricky served up a big rush at this festival. When he performed Living La Vida Loca, the crowd's response was enormous. The dancers on stage, together with Ricky's own hip movements, left everyone in no doubt that he is a fantastic live entertainer. Even though this is Ricky's first English-speaking album, there are some Spanish-language tracks on it to keep his Latin fans happy. He has said himself that releasing an English-language album is just the next step in his career, and he's not abandoning his Latin fan base. Music is universal, a point which Ricky seems determined to put across. Life has certainly become a roller coaster ride for Ricky, as he's in Europe promoting his album for the rest of 1999, and in the year 2000 he's promoting his album in Canada and the US, with an American tour scheduled for the end of the year. Having now cracked international success, Ricky is indeed living a crazy life, with over 30 people in his current entourage, including a personal acupuncturist and aromatherapist. So in the midst of all the madness, Ricky knows that he can take some time to relax and have some quiet moments while still on the road. Another relaxation for Ricky is reading. He's often remarked that Mario Benedetti is one of his favourite authors. Benedetti has published poetry which people have described as simple yet beautiful. Yet his best piece of work is the fictional book La Truega, meaning the truce. The story follows the life of a typical Latin American man and his setbacks and triumphs as he brings up his 3 children. It's a book about the life of Latin American people and is very popular in Latin American countries. Ricky has commented that this is one of his all-time favourite books. So Ricky does manage some time to keep himself sane, but Ricky madness seems to have taken over his fans. Wherever he goes now, he seems to be followed by hundreds, even thousands of fans. When he returns home, he has to take a helicopter from the airport to his destination as the roads are blocked by his fans, making even a short journey nearly impossible. Ricky Martin is the name on a lot of people's lips at the moment. One thing that Ricky has always kept quiet is his personal relationships and his family. Though his family play an important role in his life, he prefers some areas of his existence to remain relatively untouched by the glare of the media. He has had a long-term relationship with Rebecca de Alba for many years. Rebecca de Alba, 7 years Ricky's senior, is a television host in Mexico, and Ricky never speaks about her very much, saying that it wouldn't be showing any respect to talk about personal relationships. However, it has been rumoured that he is no longer with her and therefore single, which would please his multitude of fans. After releasing the song Living La Vida Loca, Ricky found the eyes of the English-speaking world upon him, waiting to see what he would do next. For a man who has worked long and hard to achieve this success, it all seemed to happen very quickly over a period of a couple of months, and Ricky's feet seemed to have hardly touched the ground since the Grammy Awards in early 1999. But is Ricky here to stay? Now that he has achieved this success in bringing Latin music to an English-speaking audience, he can concentrate on his long-term plans.
The millennium is like another day for me. It's, no big deal. But since it's the only time that I have off, I want to go to Tibet. So I'll probably spend it there. Tibet is going to be a bit simpler.
It took Ricky Martin a little over 20 years to achieve true global recognition for his music. In a career that has led him into theatre, television and the restaurant business, he has remained true to his original aim of taking his brand of Latin music to the world. His success is also spearheading the Latin crossover music movement that will see English language albums being released by other talented Latin artists, such as Jennifer Lopez, Marc Anthony and Enrique Iglesias. Ricky has encompassed the spirit of a music that has taken a long time to come to the English-speaking world, but has certainly been worth the wait. It is a wonder then, after all of Ricky's success, that he seems at times quite humble about it. It is true that after riding high on the success of his single Living La Vida Loca, Ricky is flying, as he puts it. But overall he finds his happiness and stability through his spirituality and his family. This is what keeps his feet firmly on the ground, and he once remarked that if he stopped enjoying what he was doing, then he would just stop doing it. As Ricky now has a number of talents to draw on, if he stopped enjoying one aspect of his work, he could easily fall into another. His choice of work is now better than ever before, with offers rolling in from all directions. Music will always be his first love, but he hasn't ruled out the possibility of more film and theatre roles. He was offered the lead role in West Side Story opposite Jennifer Lopez, but rejected it as it portrayed a negative stereotype. Ricky Martin is always the ambassador for his people. One thing apparent is that he loves being on the stage, be it for music or theatre or both. He would eventually like to write or produce a play, but is not thinking about anything other than music for the next few years as a priority. Even though there is no doubt about the work which Ricky has put into his career, there are always people who will put about negative rumours. One such rumour was that he was not in fact from Puerto Rico at all, and it was just hype to make his music acceptable. But Ricky's fans know differently, as the Latin music which he sings can only come from someone with a Latin soul. But despite the negative rumours, there does seem to be a relative lack of scandal in Ricky's life. One thing which endears people to Ricky is his genuine warmth and his happiness in what he is doing. Ricky found out at an early stage in his life the career he wanted to pursue, and he has gone about it with a determination that has now eventually paid off. Ricky's live performances have gained by his time at the theatre, as he loves nothing better than a big theatrical production. This is what his audiences get when they go to see him, and it generates the view that Ricky is the leading man in his own impressive production. Ricky has always felt the responsibility of portraying a positive image of Latin people to the rest of the world, and he also takes seriously his place at the forefront of Latin crossover music. His varied career has ensured that he is well prepared for the hard work that is to follow if he wants to stay at the top of the charts in English-speaking countries. Ricky's ease with the English language is quite remarkable. He seems not to just speak it, but to also understand our culture. This is part of the new global community image, which fits in well with the new millennium. In an age where computers seem set to take over, and the internet is also supporting a global identity, Ricky is promoting his music in an uncertain future and offering fans a touch of security. Ricky Martin has arrived, there's no doubt about that, as magazines and television have bombarded us with his image and interviews for quite a number of months. Ricky may have started out in a boy band all those years ago, but his current appeal and success have overshadowed even Take That. With his great smile, Latin good looks and a winning songwriting and production team, Ricky looks set to wow audiences with his pulsating performances well into the 21st century.
Thank you for buying Maximum Ricky. We hope you enjoyed it. Watch out for further titles on Chrome Dreams coming up soon. If you did enjoy it or have any comments or suggestions, write to us at Chrome Dreams, PO Box 230, New Malden, Surrey, UK KT3 6YY and tell us so. We've got 3 copies of our next release for the best letters, so don't forget to include your name and address. Thanks again for listening, and goodbye for now.